Today we are changing the brakes, the rotors, and the bearings on a 1997 GMC Safari. The rear-wheel drive version uses tapered rotor bearings. This means that the bearing and the rotor are one piece. The all-wheel drive version uses a rotor and a bearing that are separate pieces. Along with the main components, we will be adding a new washer, castle nut, and a cotter pin. These come as a set, along with the dust cap. The price for all parts came out to $327. You can see here that the rotors were the most expensive piece. Each one cost $67. Since we're putting on new rotors and new bearings, we're gonna prep them before doing anything else. The Safari uses an outer bearing and an inner bearing. Both have to be properly greased with wheel bearing grease. I suggest you use a bearing packer. It makes the job much more efficient. What we're gonna do first is fill this guy up with 1/3 wheel bearing grease, and then we're gonna lubricate the race, which is this guy, what the wheel bearing sits on. The rotors already have the races installed. And then we're gonna lubricate the seal. Only the inner wheel bearing uses a seal. One inner bearing is complete, and all you're doing is basically pushing down. You see the grease coming out of the middle of the rollers? That's what you want to see. This is ready to go. Now to put the seal on, we're gonna get a flat piece of wood and hit it with a hammer. And that should sit it on there flat. We prepped the outer bearing too. At this point, we're ready to remove the caliper. We skipped lifting the van and removing the wheel. Here's a quick section on safety. I'll be wearing safety glasses and a face mask, along with some mechanic's gloves. You should too. OSHA wants us to treat every brake job as if they contain asbestos. What we're gonna do to adhere to that rule is grab a bucket and wet down the brakes. Make sure you catch the runoff. Now we're gonna take the caliper off using a 9mm Allen socket. And we're gonna rest it on the tire. Next, grab a screwdriver and a hammer and work this dust cap off. I already did all the hard work. After that, you have a cotter pin, which you'll take out. Remove the castle nut. This is gonna be a washer. At this point, the rotor just slides out. And there it is. We're gonna clean the spindle and we're gonna coat it lightly with wheel bearing grease. Cleaned all surfaces. I sprayed down the ABS sensor with some brake clean. And at this point, the rotor is just gonna slide in. It's been prepped, remember. Oof, careful there. And there it is. Now we tighten it, we put in our washer, castle nut, cotter pin, and then dust cap. Now we're gonna properly tighten down this castle nut. Keep in mind the hole where the cotter pin is. We're gonna hand tighten it as much as we can, and then give it a small push. Not even that much. Spin it, and then back it off. Spin it again, and then just tighten it just a little bit, not too tight. When you're actually doing it, you'll feel what's tight and what's not too tight. And there's our cotter pin. Cotter pin is bent, and the new dust cap is having trouble staying on there. Even the old one is having trouble. So we'll worry about that later. Right now, let's move on to the brakes. What we do next is connect the piston compressor tool. Put an old brake pad in between the compressor tool and the piston. Normally, we'd open the bleeder screw and connect a 3/8 inch hose and let the brake fluid bleed as we compressed the piston. But in this case, the bleeder screw is rounded. I'm not too fond of this method, but it works here. We're gonna twist the compressor tool until the piston is flush with this rubber boot. The brakes come with new hardware. You can swap it if you want. Just grab some pliers. Take it out. Push in the new one. Simple as that. Now it also comes with O-rings, a big one and a small one. Now as for the brakes themselves, you're gonna have one with big ears and one with 2 small holes. The one with the 2 small holes is the one that rests against the caliper. Here's the old one. Your brake hardware comes with this clip. Put it on like that. I used a flathead to mount it on there. So this one's gonna go inside the piston, and this one's gonna be opposite it. Here's what that looks like. Here's the brake pad with the clip and the small hole. Boom, it clips onto the piston. And then the other one has this surface that mounts on this surface on the caliper, like so. And that's it. Now we're ready to reassemble the caliper, and we're almost done. And the caliper is back together. These bolts, I torqued them down to 38 foot-pounds. You can see that they're flush with the caliper. Now we're gonna put the wheel back on, and we're gonna torque down our wheels to 100 foot-pounds in a star pattern. And that's it. You could bleed your system at this time. I hope you guys learned something. This is a really simple job once you know the mechanics of it. So like I said, I hope you guys learned something. Have a good day.